Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else in the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you giving a little time of your week to catch up with some college basketball. Mike, speaking of catching up, how are things going over there? How was your Thanksgiving? Everything okay?
Sacramento State slowing it down. Thank God. I got the under 135 on Sacramento State and Idaho. Idaho loses their leading scorer, right? Sac State slowing it down. They were flying in the first half. I mean, you would have thought there's Loyola Marymount with Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball, but we've slowed down. Yes, I'm sorry. We are back. Thanksgiving was great. Turkey stuffing, always marshmallow on the sweet potato. My friend, how was yours?
It was fantastic. We really toned it down. You know what the key is for this Thanksgiving? You don't need the multiple dishes as options. We had 5 things to choose from.
That's fine.
5 things on your plate. Yeah. They're all delicious. Less dishes to wash. Less leftovers. We're good. Like, just keep it simple, people. That's all you need to do. We don't need a smorgasbord and a variety. We don't need that during Thanksgiving. Just everybody concentrate on the one dish that they're really good at. Everybody do that awesome dish, and then everybody enjoy, and then we're good. We don't need to have like the dish that, with the spoon that had like 3 spoonfuls out of it, and then like, what do you do with it? Nobody's going to have that for leftovers at lunch the next day. So you just got to throw it away. Like, no, just 5 dishes. Let's go.
That's a great – 5 is plenty. I mean, that's turkey, that's stuffing. You want to throw some cranberry, and you got 2, what do you call it? 2 hodgepodge, 2 potluck.
Yeah, potatoes, and then you have some greens in there. Boom, you're good.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Plenty. It's a great holiday.
You don't have to overcook this thing.
Totally agree.
And while I'm the dishwasher at Thanksgiving, so traditionally you would have the football games up, but luckily we were able to watch a little college basketball during Thanksgiving, which was fantastic. So I was very excited to view that while I was washing dishes. I got to see a bit of a Gonzaga and got to see a couple of other games that were on. I remember last year during the Christmas holiday, we had I believe it was Gonzaga in Oregon, where Peyton Pritchard, missed a shot at the buzzer. So I just love that college basketball is back. Let's give the people what they need here and react to some of the college basketball games that we got to view. Mike, where do you want to start?
I don't know, man. You want to go Champions Classic?
Yeah, I think that's a solid place to go. By the way, that day was kind of fantastic. I loved the afternoon basketball, and then you got to kind of like slowly roll into, Michigan State Duke, at Duke, which was kind of a different venue, and then Kansas, Kentucky. So I was amped up for the afternoon games, but then also having that as the nightcap, just fantastic. What did you see in the Michigan State Duke game? Did you feel like Duke having a quasi home court advantage at their place? Did you feel like that played any role in the game, or what else did you take from it?
I had a long discussion today, a friend of mine that talking about Duke. I think Krzyzewski's going the wrong way. Mike Krzyzewski, greatest coach probably we've ever had. But I think, the way he used to win, Gus, is he used to win by building a team to his liking, the way he wanted it to be, with a balance of scorers and role players, etc. The last couple of years, he's just gone for the 5 stars. And we had, what was the whole issue with Wendell Carter, right? Where on the way out the door, he kind of took a swipe at Krzyzewski. Right. I mean,
I think it's because, Bagley signed after Carter signed.
Yes.
Carter was supposed to be like, the spotlight player and get a whole bunch of touches. And they signed Bagley, or, Bagley comes in as a Nike player. And then, boom, all those touches go to Bagley. So, of course, Carter's going to have a little sour grapes on the way out.
Yeah. So I'm watching this team, and my reaction is this. Michigan State, nice win. I think we can bury the Izzo can't beat Krzyzewski thing. I think that's gone. Yeah. But Jalen Johnson, stud, fine, 15, 11, 3 assists. I get it. Okay. But I don't know, Gus. He's not getting, remember 35 stars worth of recruits with Calipari, right? He's not getting that. So I think he's kind of stuck in the middle between he doesn't get the Calipari-like loaded group. And if he does, his bench is terrible, which was the problem with the Bagley team. So I have concerns about this team. Matthew Hurt, okay, fine, sure. More goal wire, break feel, okay. So do I think initially, this can change. Do I think this is vintage Duke? No. Do I think they're a notch below the top teams in the country? Absolutely. And I'm starting to wonder if the old cerebral, it's not your shot, it's our shot. Here's Phil Jackson. Let's do some Zen. I'm going to leave, Gulliver's Travels in your locker. Let's read about it and talk about it. I don't know if that works for the 5-star guys. I'm going to be in the NBA in a year. So my only takeaway, good one for Michigan State. Duke will be okay. But I'm starting to wonder if old Mike isn't connecting as much here with these kids, because this is not Bagley and the crew. Okay, this is a good team. Jalen Johnson's great, but that's it. And so I kind of came away with a little bad sushi with Duke. I don't know. What do you think?
Interesting. I felt similar. The team is unbelievably young. We know that Coach Krzyzewski has not had the influence that he's had in seasons past on this young roster. I agree with you with Johnson. I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's a first-round pick, a lottery pick if you want to go there. But I agree with you. I think the Joey Baker, the Wendell Moore, the Matthew Hurt, we're expecting them to make this like kind of Duke jump / educational jump and just be smarter, make smarter winning basketball plays. And because of the influence of those youngsters that are on the roster, whether it be Johnson, whether it be a Brakefield, whether it be Roach, any of those, there's a dichotomy of approach. There's the I'm going to go for mine and I'm going to put up numbers, and then there's then there's the Joey Baker and the Moore that came back and Matthew Hurt that came back. That's like I'm here for the Duke program. So I think I agree. I think he's at a little bit of a crossroads.
I'm not listening. And some of our Duke followers are going to listen. We're not bashing Duke. What I'm saying is I think there's a skill, Gus, in relating to multiple 5-star players and getting them to buy in and accept lesser roles. And I don't know. I mean, do I think Duke's going to go 18 and 15? Of course not. They're going to be there. But are we getting out of the Sweet 16 right now? No, I don't know about that. That's my point.
I think that's a good point. And then on the other end, of course, I love what Rocket Watts did for Michigan State, and I think Henry is a legit player. He looked like one of the better wings in the nation for Michigan State, and I don't know. Hauser looked okay. He seemed like he knew what he was doing over there. I think it looks like he fits in perfectly with what Michigan State wants to do.
I agree. I think they're going to get better. See, that's my point. I was talking about this today. I almost drove off the road. I was talking on the phone about it. Like Izzo follows his pattern. Izzo follows what he does, right? He gets a couple 5-star guys, usually from Michigan, okay? And he builds around that. And he's going to have big guys that are going to rebound, right? He has the one guard. It's not Winston, but now it's Langford, who isn't as talented as Winston, but it's a 6-year, right? Like he seems to build to his system still. And I think Krzyzewski's kind of grasping for the last title. And by the way, Sacramento State to the window on the under. Woo! Sorry. Okay. By one, Gus. Oh, baby, sorry.
Thank goodness they slowed it down in the second half. Can Kansas or Kentucky make an outside shot, please? I mean, what was the problem there? I mean, I applaud the defensive wings that exist on both rosters here, but at the same time, like, can somebody make a shot here? Can we speed it up a little bit? Can we not be Sacramento State here? So, what did you take away, if anything, or was it just ugly for both ends for Kansas and Kentucky?
I have a lot to say, so please go first. I can't, because I'm going to get fired up, and I'm already mentally ready. Okay, go first. What did you take away?
Well, I think the thing that we talked about earlier was that there's no lead guard that's going to run this offense for Kansas. So every one of these games is going to get ugly and it's going to be a slog. I think Self is a good enough coach, in-game coach, and makes adjustments mid-game. I think he's a good enough coach to kind of figure it out on the fly here without that lead guard to trust his offense with. But at the same time, he's really going to earn his money this year. And I'll tell you what, I think you were onto this, and we talked about this a little bit. Wilson might just be their best player.
That's an issue. That's an issue.
Yeah. We were talking about Abaji and Garrett being these unbelievable NBA wings that have like this versatility on the perimeter, but he might be the guy that's going to put up the numbers for them. And he kind of looked like the best player on the floor for either roster, to be honest. And I know Kentucky has Boston, and everybody's like, falling over themselves to give compliments over how Sarr is going to make a big impact. But I'll tell you what, Wilson looked like the best player on the floor. And I think Coach Cal, this is kind of typical. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing yet. The team kind of looks awful. And then we look up in a month and a half, and they're one of the best teams in the nation. I can see that this Kentucky team following that similar script that has been in the past. But right now, it doesn't look good.
Okay, so Gus pretty much covered Kentucky to a T. So whatever he said, the answer is yes. I agree with that. Kentucky's going to get better. They will start making threes. They're not yet. Mintz is a huge part of them. Davion Mintz came from Creighton, okay, was known as a defensive stopper. He comes in, hits a couple threes, which they busted my Kansas -3.5 pick, which should have got there, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. I think Kentucky's going to be fine. I cannot wait for Kentucky, Tennessee. He got them ready to go. They were pounding the boards. Great job by Cal, as always, kept this one close. Now, Kansas. This is a very different Bill Self team. I would say, Gus, the roles are not defined right now. And first of all, Marcus Garrett was sick. He was obviously sick. He was doubled over. The report came out right before the game. He's a game changer because him and Abaji are the guys they cannot lose. Okay, I thought he got a good game from McCormack, which I was happy to see. He was posted inside. He was aggressive. He had to be. So I thought McCormack did a nice job. Christian Braun, I know they call him Brown. It looks like Braun. I'm gonna call him Braun. He did well, didn't make his free throws, which was really annoying. I do think Wilson is the guy. He slashes, he attacks the basket. He is a difference maker for that team. And I think it's exciting to see how Self will develop the roles as the year goes on. And he's going to do a good job with that because this is sort of a thing for him. He now gets to take the clay, put the clay on the table, and develop the team the way he wants to. Totally confident in Kansas moving forward. I thought it was a win that they got. If Garrett's healthy, I think it's like an 8-9 point win. Know what I mean? So I think it's fine. I just think the roles are developing. I don't think it's Abaji and Garrett. I think it's going to be Jalen Wilson. I think they need it to be because I think Abaji and Garrett can be great 2 and 3 options is what I'm saying. So I'm excited to see how Self does because honestly, I used to get on him, man. He's one of the best, and he gets better as the year goes on. He really knows how to coach, and he's going to have to do it with this team. So a lot of promise in this team moving forward.
I think both of these coaches are going to have to really show how great they are on the sidelines and on the practice floor after that showing, whether it be improved shooting, whether it be a little bit more flow on offense, and whether it be, like you said, roles being defined. Mike, let's head over to the Jimmy V. And that was, the other night was the anticipation that a college basketball fan could have for Gonzaga and West Virginia and Baylor and Illinois. Both the games lived up to the hype. Baylor totally lived up to the hype. Holy smokes. Going into that game, I was very heavy and high on Illinois. I thought that they would win the game, and completely wrong on that one. But Mike, which one do you want to tackle first as far as the Jimmy V Classic? Where do you need to go, and what things maybe stood out in either game? You can start.
I'll give you like 30 seconds each team. Illinois, valiant game. Coburn foul trouble. Can't have it. Can't have it against the zone of Baylor. Can't have it against the front line of Baylor. Can't have that. So right. I thought of a great job by Illinois, even though you've seen some teams stumble here. Florida, too, against Army in their first spot in a location. So Illinois is going to be fine. Love them. I'm with you. Coburn can't get in foul trouble. So one thing can't happen. Baylor, solid. Butler, tough. Maceo Teague shooting threes makes me nauseous. But besides that, really strong team, solid. Scott Drew came out of COVID for this game. They had a little bit of momentum having their head coach back on the sideline, which was nice. Can't wait for Baylor Gonzaga. Get your popcorn ready. Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs gets hurt. That's a big difference maker. He came back in the game, but he was banged up a little bit. Kispert is so much better than I gave him credit for. You're not going to hear him make fun of Kispert anymore. Really, really solid. He's developed. He's doing the things that you said he was doing 3 years ago, and I, unfortunately, because I'm blinded and stubborn, did not do that. So Corey Kispert take lock is over. Gonzaga is the best team in the country. I'm going to say it all year. I think they're a notch above everyone else. West Virginia, Huggins, tough defense. Culver, Shebe inside, really hard-nosed defense. Good effort by them. So Illinois is going to be fine. Coburn foul trouble. Baylor's one of the best teams in the country. Get your popcorn ready because they're playing the best team, which is Gonzaga, which with Suggs hurt, I don't know if they're going to win that. But still, Gonzaga is just, at their best, is just head and shoulders for me above everyone else. And West Virginia, Huggy Bear, are going to get better as the year goes on. Great job on the boards. That's what I got.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if I could add much to that, but I'll try my best. The one thing I was looking forward to in the first game with the Zags and the Mountaineers was I was curious to see how Drew Timme would respond going against probably the most physical bigs that he would go against all year. And you mentioned Culver and Shebe. And the first half, it looked like West Virginia had their way with him, and he got pushed around a little bit. He was a little timid around the rim. He didn't finish with the same efficiency that we had seen in the first couple of games. And then in the second half, we saw Timmy and Coach Few make some adjustments, and he came out and was much more efficient, much more aggressive, and a better finisher around the basket. So you wonder which Timmy is real. Is it the one who was in the first half that was a little bit intimidated and played a little soft, or was it the Timmy in the second half that was a difference maker when he had to be a difference maker when Suggs was out for a tiny bit? That's the matchup I wanted to see, and I think I got both ends of it. I got to see the West Virginia bigs kind of push him around a tiny bit. Then we got to see Timmy actually go back to form the second half. Now, for Gonzaga, I think they don't have Andrew Nembhard eligible. They don't win that game. There's zero.
I agree with that 100%. Absolutely. Yes.
So the fact that he came in and played so well with the ball in his hands, he had control of that offense, and you can tell that they really trust him and few really trust him. So if they can put out, we talked about this before, if they can put out a lineup with Suggs, Nembhard, Kitspert, and then you have Watson, Timmy, that, oh my goodness, that is bananas. That lineup is skilled all over the floor.
Best team in the country. Best team in the country, hands down.
Yeah. So that's what I took from that. And then from the Baylor, Illinois, it was the matchup of how can Baylor's perimeter talent that you mentioned, which one was going to win out, or was it going to be Coburn and the big inside for Illinois? And we saw the foul trouble affected there. And take that foul trouble out, that game is probably a little bit closer, but that's not the way the game is played. Baylor is going to be legit because they play two ways. They are great on offense, and those guys are tough, and they will defend you, and we saw that was the case against Illinois. So I'm pretty impressed with Baylor. I'm with you with the popcorn. Let's get that ready. And then I just want to touch really fast on Texas and UNC and Matt Coleman hitting the game winner.
Yeah, Old Roy's got a good team. They're going to develop. I love the bigs inside. Baycott and Brooks, of course, is exceptional. I'm going to tell you right now, Gus, Shaka's got something going on.
Yeah.
Okay. He has created a team to his liking for what I think is the first time. There's no injury, right? He, of course, went through the terrible stuff with Andrew Jones, which is one of the best stories ever. Okay.
Right.
He has senior guards. He has leadership in those guards. They defend the ball well. And the bigs inside are tremendous. Brown is the frosh. He'll feed off of Sims. Sims is a matchup nightmare. He has a good team. They're buying what he's selling. They're into it. We know his seat is hotter than Hades, but he has himself a really good team. Great win for Texas. Matt Coleman, Onions. They're good. Watch out, Kansas. Watch out, Baylor. They're a problem.
I totally agree that they're a problem. You mentioned Andrew Jones being one of the best stories in college basketball. Matt Coleman was playing with a little swagger.
Yep, he's got swag.
Yeah, when you have a senior guard that can play like that and make plays like that. We just talked about Illinois and how great, we didn't mention Io, but Io has a penchant for making those types of shots too. So if Matt Coleman can, channel his inner Io and make some of these game-winning shots in late shot clock situations for them, that's exactly what Texas needs, because that's the type of game that they're gonna get into. It's gonna be low scoring in the high 60s, low 70s. They're gonna have to make a play on the offensive end, and you're right, they have a nice combination. They got Kai Jones, Sims. You mentioned you mentioned Brown. Like all of those guys seem like they're at the trampoline mini park. Like
it's a great call.
Like they're just like bouncing all over the place. I don't know how else to say it except I took my daughter and her friends to, I forget what the name of the park is an indoor trampoline park, and they played like dodgeball on trampolines. They dunk the ball off trampolines and it flips into the foam pit. It seems like they're constantly on those trampolines, just like jumping around all over the place.
Yeah, you normally, Gus, with this team, I feel like Greg Brown, 6'9" freshman, I feel like he would have to do it all inside. But you could say what you want about Jericho Sims, 6 points, 6.5 boards. He's a presence, he's a problem, and he's a leader inside. He's exactly what he needs to do. Kai Jones, fantastic. Ramey, Coleman, Andrew Jones, it's a very solid team.
Yeah. I think I was a little low on them. I had them in the 20s.
Me too.
And ranked, and I think they're a little bit better than that. And I'm with you on North Carolina. Look, I'm a North Carolina guy at heart.
Oh, yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah, sure.
I think they'll figure it out, and I think if he can kind of have a little bit more control, he doesn't have to do that much because you mentioned all the big Sharp is really talented as well. I love him, and they might even play three bigs together. Who knows? Yeah. But, I think they'll be okay. And sometimes you lose a game when somebody makes a big shot like a senior like Coleman.
Oh, yeah. No, they've been fine. The second half against UNLV, somebody they rolled the second half. They're going to be fine. I have no problem with them. I'm higher on them than Duke. I'm going to say that right now.
Oh, I think that's I have no problem with that at all. All right. Speaking of big performances like Matt Coleman, what other performances stood out the first couple of games that you watched? Were there a couple of talents, a couple of performances, a couple of players that stood out to you that you were like, oh, man, okay, we got to pay attention here?
Yeah, let's go around the country. First one I mentioned is Suggs. Jalen Suggs, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 of 3 from three-point range against Kansas. By the way, it's in 24 minutes, okay?
Right.
He's a difference maker. He's special. He's a top 5 pick. I can see it already. The on-the-ball defense, the athleticism, the three-point ability. He's got it all. Kid is big. He's strong. Amazing recruit. Him with Mark Few. It's like, getting in Grandpa Al's basement there with the Munsters, watching him, pull some concoction together. He's got a great player. Jalen Suggs, Gus, amazing.
Love the way he takes it to the hole and his creativity and craft in the lane to create shots for himself and opportunities for others. And his length in the lane, being a legit 6'5" with a plus wingspan. He can do a lot in the lane and absorbs contact. I really like what he does in the lane. And to be honest, there was a time, like when I was watching that game, I was like, man, he just might be the best freshman in the country. Forget about Cade.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No, I think he is. I think he's different.
Yeah, you can make an argument that Suggs is as good as Cade. I mean, Cade has done a number of great things and has been unbelievably steady as a freshman ball handler for Oklahoma State. But at the same time, Suggs has been breathtaking at some point.
I think Suggs is different level. Cade's wonderful player too. But Suggs to me is top 5, top 3 pick right now. I've seen enough. I can't stop watching the kid. Next one up, news flash here. Breaking news here on the Screen Screener podcast. Luka Garza is good, Gus. 2 games I saw 26-10, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 41-9 and 3. The only issue I'll bring up, no one gets more out of their talent than he does. But Gus, any thoughts on him mouthing they covered at the end of the Southern game, which was on Twitter? The fact that he knows about that, I don't know. Just throw it out there, Gus.
Listen, I love that he's involved in the game and the pregame scouting report, but maybe just he's a little too invested there, if that's a thing. I don't know. You know what? I think that I'm sure that's a thing that's talked about in the locker room. Hey, let's make sure we let's make sure we beat them by 30. Let's make sure we win this game by 25. Let's hold this lead. And then, when you empty the benches and you just tell when you empty the benches, okay, let's just keep it where it is. And then that's probably what that is, but who knows? It could be something else, could be something different. But yeah, Luka has been playing unbelievable. He's shooting the ball really efficiently. He's unbelievably crafty in the lane when you give it to him in the post. I love what they do where they'll toss it in, get the initial paint touch. He tosses it back out. He reposts. They send it back in. The double's already running away, and then he operates on that single coverage. Love that part that they've done. That's really efficient. That's been really great for them. I don't know why they would go away from that. And I don't know why you'd take the double away. Of course, the ball movement is fantastic with them. The biggest question, as always, are they going to defend enough? But right now, if he's going to play that way, they might not need to.
Yeah, Fran's always good for some fun like that. But yeah, Garza's great. He just does a wonderful job. Next one, this story, Rob Doster put this out. I've had Rob on the podcast multiple times. Jason Preston from Ohio. He's a junior, Gus, out there at Ohio. 21 points a game for the Bobcats. Always a solid mid-major team. You got to go to Doster's tweet about Jason Preston. Look it up on Twitter if you don't find it. Guy was like he lost his parents, he was like he was scoring like 2 points a game as a senior in high school. Some ridiculous story. Went to an AAU game because his buddy was playing in it, and he said, "Oh, we need one more guy." And he got noticed, and he got like an offer to a Division II school, and he found his way to Ohio here. He's overcome so much adversity, and he's single-handedly almost beat Illinois at Illinois. Jason Preston, another great story, trying to reverse the bad karma here in 2020. 21 points per game for Ohio. Kid is legit, and has certainly had a hard, long road there to overcome, and he has.
This is one of those stories that you pay attention to early in the season where you're like, wow, this is what athletics can do for somebody that's down and out and down.
Yes.
It can totally change the outcome of their life. And Jason Preston is making the most of the opportunity that he is getting in Ohio and the most of his opportunity to play against top-level talent like Ayo Dosunmu in that Illinois game. He went for him toe to toe, tat for tat. He did not back down a single bit. And you know what? A lot of those scores from Preston came in the lane with the length that exists with Illinois. So I was really impressed with the way he played, but even more impressed with the backstory.
And I would assume we talked about him. Gus, I'm only bringing it up. He's brought his game to a different level. So he comes back, right? 25 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists. That's right, folks. And we're talking about Fat Lever, old podcast reference here. Triple-double, ask light. 5 of 8 from three-point range. That was the thing. Can he make threes? And that opening win against North Carolina A&T, he was only 29% from three last year. He made the 2 free throws to beat Ohio Onions. Ayo Dosunmu, big-time player, Gus, and has really ramped up his game. He's a well-rounded player.
Listen, when you are that type of player and you would be a late first-round draft pick, it'd be tough. There's a lot of point guards picked this year, so he would be in that mix with like Peyton Pritchard and I'm trying to think Tyrell Terry and those guys that were drafted late.
Gus, for me, he's a lock top 20 pick right now. If he keeps shooting threes like this, I think
absolutely, especially with his length. And the one thing that you really loved about him, even if you ignore the numbers, is just his late game execution and his late game want of the ball and owning the moment. And we already saw that already this year, a couple of games in, making 2 free throws to beat that really live Ohio team that we mentioned earlier with Preston.
Absolutely. And last one I want to mention, Jamare Bouye. Okay. On the show sheet, folks, I put out the phonetic spelling because I want to say it wrong. That's right. Jamare Bouye, senior, San Francisco, Todd Golden out there. Biggest upset of the year so far, 61-60 over Virginia. That was their third game in 3 days. Disciplined sets of UVA. Tony Bennett, national champion. Tony Bennett, guys, can't forget that. 19.6 assists, 2 steals. He was the West Coast Conference preseason team. They went out. People had them going to Nevada today. People worried. I think the spread was like Nevada -2. They absolutely took Nevada to the woodshed in the second half and smacked them around. San Francisco's for real. Todd Golden's an up-and-coming coach. Jamare Bouye is fantastic. And, oh, by the way, they lost to UMass Lowell in the opening game of the year, which is why college basketball is the best.
Right. Who can explain the loss to the Riverhawks? That's unbelievable. And, I mean, the win over UVA is like nobody can predict it. Of course, they play with efficiency on the offensive end. They really protect the ball and take care of it in value possessions, very similar to Virginia. So if Virginia's going to lose one of ththese games, of course it's going to be against a team that plays a similar style and then just lose it on the last possession or two. And that's exactly what happened here. But I tell you what, Abouye did an unbelievable job. Awesome line against one of the best teams in the nation. And you know what? I think people can actually look forward to that San Francisco Gonzaga and San Francisco BYU matchups in the WCC. I think that they're going to be live. They might steal one of those games.
You know why I love you? Because you didn't mention St. Mary's. Of course.
I want to be totally into it, okay?
Moving on. I want to make this a weekly segment. Get Gus's thoughts. Gus, I'm going to fire some things at you here. Give me your top-of-the-head stuff. You can always go deep in your brain and just pull stuff out of the top of the head. Here we go. Your guy, Harvard transfer Bryce Aiken, he's out 2 weeks of an ankle sprain suffered in Seton Hall, 71-70 opening loss to that Louisville team. How does this affect the Pirates, by the way? A little frisky. They were frisky against Patino in the Iona game. Iona hadn't practiced for about 6.5 years, and Iona's got him up and down the court, and all of a sudden they just got tired. But Bryce Aiken, Seton Hall, why'd you take this one? Because maybe I'm a little biased.
Well, number one, I'm glad that the Ivy transfers are actually going to have an impact. Seth Towns at Ohio State.
He's not even there yet. He's not even started yet. Yeah, absolutely.
Alabama, and then Mike Smith from Columbia is out.
Bruner in Alabama. Yeah, and Mike Smith at Michigan. Yeah, absolutely good.
So all of those guys are playing big minutes in big time programs. And Bryce,
did you notice that, guys? Gus just rattled off the Ivy transfers. He didn't look at the sheet. There's no sheet with this. He just rattled off the top of your head. Go ahead.
Well, the other listeners know that's where our heart is, and we're always paying attention.
Rattling off Ivy transfers. Jesus.
Well, there's 2 things that I'll say to this right off the top of my head. Number one, Aiken is a shot maker, and he's a difference maker at the end of the shot clock. So I think when Seton Hall gets stuck, they're not going to have that bailout shot maker like they had with Miles Powell, and we're spoiled with the last couple of years. But I think what this might do is this might present an opportunity. It might present an opportunity for a player I'm really paying attention to, Jared Rhoden. And I think that might give him some of that responsibility on the offensive end, whether it be facilitating or initiating the offense, and maybe some of that shot making late shot clock. So it's an opportunity for Rhoden, but I think overall, it's going to hurt the Hall, especially late clock situations. And we've seen Seton Hall play a ton of these tight games. So I don't think it's going to be any different this year with Coach Willard. And if they don't have a shot maker like Aiken, I think that's where it's going to affect them the most.
I have a blind spot for Stanford. I was way too low on them to start the year. Full disclosure, Mrs. Randall will give me feelings sometimes. And when she gets those feelings, she's almost always right. She actually called folks years ago when New Mexico State with Alford lost to Harvard. She called that one. Anyway, she called Alabama over Stanford. That one didn't go too well. Okay. But Stanford pounded Alabama, lost a close battle with UNC on a short turnaround day. Zaire Williams, Gus, top 5 prospect, very impressive early for Stanford. They were 4th in the Pac-12 preseason poll behind UCLA, Arizona State, Oregon. Little low there. Oregon got smacked around by Missouri at home to open it up yesterday. They did get a first place vote. I want to get your thoughts on Stanford here. Didn't do well against Indiana, which had an inspired game there. Great bounce back game. Trace Jackson Davis came out like a man possessed in that game after a rough loss, and they were shorthanded, no Al Durham. But overall, Stanford, I'm kind of impressed.
Here's what I also have a blind spot for them too. So I'll just go, the loss to Indiana just tells you kind of like where Stanford is. So Stanford's going to defend, but the question is, are they going to be able to score enough? So they're like the polar opposite, the other end of the spectrum, Iowa. Like, that they're going to defend, but can they score enough? They have NBA talent. You mentioned Zaire Williams. I love their guard, Davis. He does so many things.
Yeah. He's good. Dejon Davis, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's been there. We mentioned how important having these like upperclassmen guards with Matt Coleman. Maybe Davis has a moment like that. If you remember, he made that half-court shot last season.
Yeah.
That thing. So if they can score enough and they can have some of those efficient offensive possessions at the end of halves, the end of games, and the end of shot clock, then I think they're going to be okay. But if they play offensively like they did against Indiana, then it's just going to be a slog-out game, and you're going to cross your fingers they make enough threes. But I think 4th is a good spot for them. I think the whole entire Pac-12 has been kind of blah, and average. UCLA, Arizona State, and Oregon, and we can include Stanford in that as well. So I think overall the Pac-12 has been a little disappointing out of the gate, and we'll see if that changes in conference play and then maybe on in March. But right now, I'm a little down on the Pac-12 in general, Stanford included in that.
I kind of just thought they were soft, and I kind of just thought that they weren't going to be a big deal. And, we like Mick, what he's done at UCLA. He was the 12th choice for the job. We're going to root for him. I heard Dana Altman on the show, the Titus and Tate show on Fox Sports. Got a follow back by Tate Frazier for this, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Nice.
But, and I heard Dana Altman talk about how he feels the Pac-12 needs to start validating itself, and they need a national champion here. He just went out and said it. So give him a lot of credit. What was the last one they had? It was Arizona, right? It was the last Pac-12 title they had. Was the Miles Simon year, I think? That was after O'Bannon. It was after O'Bannon, right? So
yes.
Yeah. So it's been a while. They want one, so I like that. But Stanford going to be an issue. I kind of excited for them, to be honest. I want to look more at what they got going on.
Well, they're a top 10 defensive team via Ken Pom, so that they're going to defend. They do have interesting talent. Oscar De Silva is there, so he's an interesting inside-outside guy that can stretch the floor a tiny bit. We mentioned Davis. If Terry stayed and didn't leave for the NBA draft, then we might be doing something, because he's one of those shot makers that we have stressed have been so important in the college game.
Gus, want to do some games coming up this week? Let's do some that are coming up tomorrow, aka today when you're hearing this. I ran to the bet this game. I ran to bet as soon as it came out. Wisconsin Marquette, a 5-serve forum. It was whiskey by 2. I think right now, Gus, what's it, 3.5?
It's floating at 3.5.
I took it at 4. I know it's a rivalry. I get it. We've gone out to Milwaukee multiple times. I get it. I think Wisconsin's head and shoulders. They're a senior-laden team. I think Marquette's overblown. I'm not buying it. Lost at home to Oak State. I know there's going to be a slobber knocker. I'm taking Wisconsin. Tell me I'm crazy.
No. Wisconsin has way too much on the inside. I know Theo John has great hair. He's as strong as an ox. He's not going to get pushed around. But if you put both Potter and Reavers there, they're both skilled. They can shoot. They can pass. They can rebound. It's a little bit too much inside, even if the 6'11" freshman Dawson Garcia shows up and tries to display some of the stuff that he's kind of known for but hasn't shown yet for Marquette. I still think Wisconsin has a little bit too much. And I think that both of those bigs, it's an issue. They're both really skilled. They can both stretch the floor. They can both put you down in the post and put somebody on their back and score in the post. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that 3.5 number looks really appealing. I'm with you on that one for sure.
Winthrop, Duquesne, two really good mid-majors here. Winthrop beat Little Rock tonight. That was good for my bankroll. Duquesne beat UNCG on Wednesday. They've had a little bit more rest. So Winthrop's got to come back now and play Duquesne tomorrow. And right now it's Duquesne -4. And the over-under's at 151.5. Gus, I know you got a thought on the over-under. I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to lean Duquesne. I really like Winthrop this year. Pat Kelsey, the whole thing with UMass, but he can coach. They got a really good team, man. But back-to-back, coming off a tough Little Rock team against Duquesne, who's got time to prepare, I'm leaning Duquesne.
I'm leaning the other way. Here's why.
Really? Be a big win for Winthrop, man. That'd be a great win. Oof.
Well, if we just take a look, if we just use the transitive property and we just look at them both playing Little Rock, Winthrop owns that win over Little Rock. So I think if we just go transitive property, that makes sense too. And also that number is totally, like a Ken Pomish influenced number because like who really knows anything about Duquesne or Winthrop besides like maybe the two of us and a couple of our listeners, right? That's about it. I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. Here's the thing. Point forward, Chandler Valdrin. He's a legit 6'7". He owns a stat line currently of 14, 8, and 7 on 60% shooting. He is a legit triple-double waiting to happen sometime this season. Guess what? I don't think that Duquesne has much to match him on the perimeter. Yes, I know the Michael.
Oh, stop. I'm sorry. Oh, you can finish, but I just came on my Twitter timeline. Duquesne's contest tomorrow morning against Winthrop has been canceled due to a pair of positive COVID tests. Sorry. So it just came up. But listen, we're on Duquesne and Winthrop. I'm sorry. I just had to cut you off before we went there. Continue, please, but it's not on.
Checking that. Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I hope everybody's healthy in both programs, and I hope they take the proper protocols and can come back to find the court and the practice floor as soon as possible. That is absolutely thing number one that we want to know. But the other thing I was just going to say is Michael Hughes and DJ Burns. That'd be a great match inside. Michael Hughes is like a metrics darling, and it does a lot of positive things on the floor. And Burns is a legit big guy. He's a local guy from right around Winthrop. He's playing in a very comfortable spot. And if we're going to lean one way, I would be leaning Winthrop, even though I really like Sincere Carry at the point for Duke.
Yeah, that's a shame. That would be a good one. But this is good intel, folks, because Winthrop and Duquesne, we're both going to be talking about both of them. Keith Dambro, great job at Duquesne. Saturday, December 5th, Gus. Gonzaga, Baylor. I mean, popcorn ready. Just go, man.
Yeah, let's – the thing I wanted to pay the most attention to with Gonzaga and Kansas was the wing matchup. And I think we can pay attention to the wing matchup here again. Who's going to find the mismatch? Like, is it going to be Suggs on Teague? Is it going to be Kitspert on Butler? Like, where is that mismatch going to be exploited the most? I think Gonzaga is going to find that mismatch, whether it be on switches, on early offense, and on threes and kickouts. And that's why I'm going to lean Gonzaga here. I also think that Timmy is going to be really efficient around the basket with his slithery type moves, and he really scores early in the offense off the break. He's a little bit more athletic than you might think he is just by looking at him face value. So if I'm going to go there, I love the matchup on the wings. I think Gonzaga is going to find that mismatch and attack it, whether it be Suggs, Kitspert, Ayayi, whoever. Maybe it's even a Nebhard, who knows? And I think Timmy's going to get some early scoring opportunities on the break. And I think the second half is going to mirror what happened with West Virginia, where it kind of just drags out to about an 8-9 point win after being a 2 or 3 point game early on in the first half.
South Carolina, Houston at the Fertitta Center. Haven't said that for a while. Mrs. Randall, very interested in this one. Big South Carolina fan. Frank Martin, shaved head. She now has stock, Gus. This is true. I've totally corrupted her. She bought a stock online on the Fertitta Gambling Company. Okay.
Sure.
So I clearly corrupted her. I think this is a bad matchup for South Carolina. I do. Houston pounded Texas Tech. Super impressive. Aggressive on the boards. Talk about following a system with Kelvin Sampson. I like South Carolina. Frank Martin always dials one up. I think they're going to get pushed around, though, here in the Fertitta Center.
I think they'll keep it closer than you think. Just because that's how Frank Martin teams play. That's how South Carolina plays. I do think the perimeter talent that Houston owns, we can look at Giroux. We can look at
Giroux's great. Swiss Army knife.
Absolutely.
NBA player, Giroux?
He might be because he does enough stuff.
Stuff, yes.
Yeah, and he can defend multiple positions on the perimeter. So, yeah, maybe, but I don't know if he's athletic enough. How about that? He does create a lot on the offense, though, not just for himself either. But I think there's too much talent and ball skills on offense on the perimeter for Houston, so I'm going to lean them there. But I think it might be a little bit closer than you think just because Martin coaches his guys up and has them playing hard. They never lack effort. They just might lack shot making and talent.
And Iona hosts Hofstra. Rick Pitino at home after almost getting – the only reason they lost Seton Hall is they ran out of gas. Now they've been able to practice. They're home here. Hofstra, I don't know if Mihalik's going to be back. Right. Will Pitino have the team ready? What do you think?
I think coaching is a huge factor. And I think Mihalik not being on the sidelines for Hofstra is a huge
big difference. Yep. And it's not COVID related with him. We just don't know what it is.
Right. And I think Pitino being on the sidelines is a huge advantage for Iona. There's a lot of expectation with Iona and Pitino in the same sentence. And I think as many times that he has an opportunity to make a statement, he's going to attempt to. And I think this is one of those opportunities. So I think he saw that game against Seton Hall was a chance to get a win against a big program. I don't think he's going to mess it up here. Not that Hofstra and Seton Hall are the same level of program, but it is a very productive and successful local program here in the tri-state area. So I don't think that's going to go to the wayside. Pitino, I don't think it's going to be lost on him.
A couple quick hitters here for Sunday, then we'll get out of here. Nova, Texas in Texas. You know, am I buying into Shaka too easily in this game? I don't know what the line's going to be. Am I buying into Shaka? I feel like could be, me doing like the Jerry Seinfeld. Shaka. Okay. Nova on the road in Texas. They're playing great, flying high. Jay Wright will have this team ready. I don't know how I feel about this game. What do you got?
I think it's all going to be determined. Does Jeremiah Robinson Earl play like he did the first couple of games? Or does he play like he did his last game where he put up 2 points? If he plays like the first couple of games and looks like an All-America and matches up against Sims and matches up against Brown for Texas, then we're looking at something. But if he gets outplayed by those guys and their athletic talent, and like we mentioned, like it seems like they have springs in their shoes. If he kind of gets like swallowed up by that, then it might be a long day for Nova, and your buy into Texas might be appropriate.
Crosstown shootout here, no fans, just not the same. 5th, 3rd Street. Xavier Cincy?
Listen, you have to tune in. Although there's no chance of any fights breaking out in the crowd, the intensity is not going to be lacking in this, and this is definitely a top 5 rivalry in the sport of college basketball. I think you have to tune in no matter who's on the roster and whether there's no fans there. Top 5 rivalry in our sport in college basketball.
I'd like to thank the Bearcats for looking ahead there. Got me Lipscomb and the cover at Cincinnati earlier this week. Nice. Pepperdine, San Diego State. Lorenzo Romar's got Pepperdine playing tough, man. They beat UC Irvine. Then they lost to UCLA 3 overtimes on a neutral. Really tough job by them. Aztecs, Gus looked really good against UCLA opening night. Shorthanded Bruins team, but they played well. Matty Mitchell's back. Team's playing defense. Dutcher, the whole thing. I think it's a close battle like San Diego State, but I think Pepperdine's for real. Romar's doing a good job.
Well, here's the thing. I think Pepperdine might actually have the best player on the floor in this game with Colby Ross. So I think that's something that you have to pay attention to right away. And Pepperdine can score the ball. So this is going to be something where you want to pay attention to. Does the offense and the shot making of Pepperdine, especially Ross here, does that go against the San Diego State blueprint, which is going to be like, okay, we're going to defend every position and value every possession and slow it down a little bit? So I kind of like the diversity of styles here. I'm going to lean Pepperdine a little bit, and I think that, Ross could be like an NBA-ish type player, and I don't know if San Diego State's roster possesses one of those players like it has in years past, most recently last year.
Yeah, good one. Really good one. Partner, that's it for me, man. Anything else? A great weekend of college hoops. Things are going well. Florida's pounding BC. St. Mary's is coming back here on Texas Southern, who's played a rough schedule, by the way. All's good in the world.
You know what? We just want to say thank you to the listeners. It's past Thanksgiving, but we're thankful for you guys letting us share the start of the season with you. Please give the podcast a follow at SDS Podcast. Efficiency of Keystrokes, of course, on Twitter. And then, of course, give Mike a follow over at Randall Rant. He will give you everything inside his college basketball mind over from the Action Network. And we just want to say thanks. Thanks for choosing us and letting us be a part of your week and part of your commute back and forth. So thank you out there, listeners.
Folks, looking forward to it. Get your popcorn ready. Badgers tomorrow night, the 5 serve, Gus.
Listen, Badgers big. I'm feeling 5, 6, 7 point win there. Look at that number and bet accordingly, people.
For T-Toss Center. See ya.
Cheers, Salatra, Gratulazia.
I'm addicted to the appetite. Reserve a seat in advance. And get cozy in the candlelight.